So pro wrestling fans since Friday's Smackdown have been scratching their heads over what's been called the disastrous belt swap 2021 edition. Now, for those who have been following in recent days, and we'll break it down, we're going to be quoting from some WrestleZone information that was provided by Watch It on your behalf Friday night, and here's the breakdown what happened. The annual WWE Draft, where pro wrestlers are drafted to SmackDown or to Raw or kept, involved a lot of things. Now, in this case, Charlotte Flair, the Raw Women's Champion, is heading to SmackDown, and Becky Lynch, the SmackDown Champion, was headed to Raw as part of the draft. Now, I don't know why the kayfabe situation, it couldn't have been done better, but he wanted to have the belt swap live. Now, in the history of the WWE, I don't remember any similar situation where two world title belts, or what he called divisional belts, have not been decided to move by swapping. Now, when Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair swapped their respective WWE Women's Championships live on SmackDown, which is on Fox and a myriad of networks worldwide, fans apparently weren't the only ones who were unhappy with the segment. Quoting from WrestleZone.com, Mike Johnson, a PWI insider, reports that Lynch and Flair had a confrontation backstage after the event when the issue stemming from the title swap between the champions. Now, Flair voiced concerns about the exchange before WWE SmackDown. She reportedly didn't want to look weak, and she also concerned that a swap would hurt the perception of her title reign. Still, WWE went through with the segment as planned. Johnson, in his report, then noted that during the swap itself, which was saw live, Flair threw the belt to the ground. Now, that's a no-no with any belt. You don't take any belt ever since a certain former WWE World's Women Champion threw the belt in the trash live on Nitro many years ago. Alundra Blaze, whatever you want to call her. This was not the planned direction. Likewise, in response, and Lynch should look really pissed off, threw her title at Flair and was not in the script. Now, there was a moment when Flair was to hand the belt to Becky, but instead pulled it away and threw the belt on the mat, which was not the scripted way the exchange was expected to go. Now, though the segment got back on track and finished as intended, Johnson wrote that Flair and Lynch had, again, a verbal tirade backstage due to Flair allegedly disrespecting Lynch by trying to make her look bad. Per source. Johnson noted that while the face-off was heated, it did not get physical. Now, Alex McCarthy of TalkSport added additional details in a separate report. Per his sources, he wrote that in the segment, Flair was supposed to try and play cat and mouse with the title, and Lynch was supposed to touch the title, but a timing error caused the belt to fall to the floor. Not what I saw. Now, McCarthy noted that Lynch, Flair, and Sonya Deville, the storyline WWE official who moderated the swap, were unhappy with the situation. He also wrote that WWE officials were concerned about the subsequent confrontation between the two champions backstage before he stated that their friendship has been strained for a while now. Additionally, McCarthy reports that Vince McMahon, of course, wasn't pleased when Flair left gorilla position without talking to him. Overall, McCarthy wrote that no one involved was happy about the title switch segment, though it was discussed throughout the day and it still went on as planned. Now, Johnson shared more information later in the day on Saturday in a new report. He wrote that Flair is being viewed as the one who was responsible for the title swap segment not going as intended. Per Johnson, Flair was not supposed to pull the Raw Women's Championship from Flair. It was not part of the script whatsoever. He wrote that Flair pulled Lynch's title away in an attempt to make it look like Lynch had been one-upped. In the update, Johnson noted that Lynch was supposed to throw the title at Flair, whereas the initial report stated that this hadn't been the case. As for the fallout of the event, Johnson writes that there's heat on Flair in certain circles for the way she treated Lynch in the segment. Reportedly, some of this heat also stems from the feeling that Flair took the focus off of Banks, who was meant to be built up as SmackDown's top babyface, and put it back on herself and Lynch. Flair was also reportedly asked to leave the venue after the confrontation to prevent any further escalation. Johnson additionally noted that Lynch isn't facing heat for the situation, as it's believed that she was pushed to the boiling point ahead of the confrontation backstage. Within the locker room, Johnson writes that Lynch was perceived as standing up for herself. Finally, Johnson reports that Flair is reportedly very upset at what transpired here, and he mentions the speculation that Andrade's FU WWE, which is her boyfriend who's now in AEW, tweet was a response to the confrontation between Flair and Lynch. While yet another update on the situation, Fightful Select reports the original plan called for Lynch to grab the title from Flair and brag about being Becky Two Belts, which was her nickname for a while when she held both the Raw and SmackDown title in her classic run, before again she was forced to hand the title over. Flair disagreed with this direction, but she was told to stick to the script. It was noted that most of those involved already agreed the whole segment was going to be awkward, but then there was a shouting match backstage, with Charlotte claiming her dropping the title on the ground was accidental. Fightful also record PWI Insider's report that Flair was asked to leave the venue in an effort to defuse the situation. It was pointed out by TalkSport and Fightful that Flair took issues with certain bookings this week, specifically the finish of Raw to at least one person backstage. Now, Charlotte Flair got a big ego. Becky Lynch got a big ego. Vince McMahon got a big ego. But to basically hand one belt over to the other, there's speculation in recent weeks because of AEW's building up in the ratings. And we're going to head into the discussion that's been going on in recent months. Are we going into the ratings wars like we did with WCW and WWE some quarter century ago? Is that growing right now? Well, it's yet to be determined, because the women's division of the WWE is much stronger than the women's division of AEW, because AEW does have some great female wrestlers, but come on, the amount of females in the WWE right now are getting very strong. You have potential 8 or 9 world champions in the mix, and you got a situation where literally more people are watching wrestling than a year ago because of the great women's wrestling that's been going on in recent months. Now, is Charlotte Flair like her father? Yes. Is she a better wrestler than her father when it comes to kayfabe? Hard to tell, because there's an edge to her, like, she doesn't really want to be showing up. Her father would take it, but she's not her father. But with Becky Lynch too, she was on pregnancy leave for a long while. She's still involved in a heavy plot about her coming back. Does Charlotte feel intimidated? This is go back to NXT. Again, how much is kayfabe? How much is real? But I mean, this is not the level, of course, of the screw job or anything similar. But it was weird when I watched that Friday night. I wasn't covering the baseball that night. I said, I'm going to look in on this. And it was just bizarre from the outset, because you got to understand, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, anytime you got a ring together, there's always been trouble. And sure, it's fake, fake. But my God, I can tell they don't like each other. So what do you think was going to happen? They were just basically going to forget their, professional jealousy of each other? But the thing is, wrestling is all about 3 things: getting over, jealousy, and putting people in the seats, either TV or at the venue. I am sure over the next 2 months, McMahon will turn this up a little bit. Now, was McMahon manipulating the situation by choosing this? He has the final say that by choosing this to exchange a belt, but everybody was speculating how they're going to do this, and look how they did it. From one side, he did it quite well. On the other side, it was a complete failure. It all depends who you take up for. If you're a Becky Lynch fan, you're wondering why Charlotte Flair freaked out like that. If you're a Charlotte Flair fan, well, you said maybe she's not going to take crap like her father did when she's asked to do something she doesn't want to do. So, but anyway, if you can find the unedited last 15 minutes of the show, go on YouTube, or maybe go on the repeats on the Smackdown on Canadian television. I think it's Sportsnet. I could be wrong here, but just check out if they keep it. It's quite interesting. It's quite fascinating. It's probably one of the better, non-scripted wrestling moments of the last 5 years. It was fascinating. It will continue to grow, I think. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the latest on the Becky Charlotte situation. If you like what we're doing, our sports podcast, give us a like, comment, or subscribe. Bye.